Hi there, and I am back with another top 10, and today I thought I would talk about my favourite Shakespearean actors. Now, I should have a quick disclaimer to start off with and say that they are all men. Please don't hate me for that. I'm not saying women can't act Shakespeare. There are some excellent actresses that do Shakespeare. However, I tend to be more drawn to the men, which is why it's all men in the top 10. You'd probably start to find a few women as we head into the top 20, but it will be all men today. So sorry, it's just there's something about a guy's voice reading Shakespeare that hits me more than a woman's. Anyway, starting off at the top of the list, my favourite Shakespearean actor is Mark Rylance, who you may or may not know. If you don't know his name, you may recognise him because he played Thomas Cromwell in Wolf Hall, the TV adaptation of the Hilary Mantel novel. But I know him as a Shakespeare actor, and because of his work at the Globe, he was the first artistic director, and he starred in a lot of productions there, some of which I saw. The thing that really cemented his position for me was his Richard II at the Globe, which I went to see several times while the performances were going, and I mean, it made Richard II my favourite Shakespeare play, and he is so amazing. The way Mark Rylance speaks Shakespeare, he just has this way of saying it that feels so natural, and yet it's completely different from the way anyone else that I watch does Shakespeare. It's really hard to describe, but if you go online, I think there are a few clips of him as Richard II around. Sadly, although they filmed it and put it on TV, they never released a DVD, which I'm so gutted about, because I have it on video that I recorded off the TV, when it was on, and I'd so love to be able to watch it again, but I no longer have a video player. So if only the Globe would bring out that DVD, my life would be complete. But that is the cross I have to bear. But Mark Rylance, check him out, because the absolute best Shakespearean actor in all the time, I think. Number 2, Tom Hiddleston. I really admire Tom Hiddleston's Shakespearean performances, although other people may not know him so much for his Shakespeare compared to his Marvel work and other films. For me, I found him through Shakespeare. Is when he played Prince Hal in The Hollow Crown that I became a fan of his, which then led me to watch Thor and the other Marvel films and made me a Marvel fangirl. So I'm a Marvel fangirl because of Tom Hiddleston and Shakespeare. But Tom Hiddleston's Prince Hal was perfect. I mean, there's nothing I can fault in his performance. I so fell in love with Prince Hal when he played him. And then he went on and did Coriolanus, which I was able to see since they filmed it for National Theatre Live. And again, that was such a marvel. Younger than often is used as an actor for Coriolanus, but I thought that really lent the character a bit more of an edge. And he's such an emotive actor. I love him. Number 3, Kenneth Branagh. Kenneth Branagh's done so much for popularising Shakespeare, particularly back, around the 90s or so. He did some amazing film versions. His Much Ado About Nothing I really enjoy still. He did the really quirky musical version of Love's Labour's Lost, which if you haven't seen it, I recommend, especially if you're not a Shakespeare fan, because it's a nice light introduction. You get a bit of spoken Shakespeare, but you get all these songs from the 1930s, like in between, so check that out. His Hamlet, but he did a very good Hamlet on film as well. Number 4, Laurence Olivier. Now, Laurence Olivier is one of the older school style Shakespearean actors from the time when it was really a declamatory performance. Everyone performed Shakespeare in this, sort of posturing manner back at the time Olivier was around. As far as that style of acting goes, I'm not a fan of it for Shakespeare. However, of his period, he was absolutely the best. And his performances, his Hamlet, his Richard III, they're all such iconic performances that even if you don't like the style, you really should see them. Number 5, Michael Fassbender. Now, Michael's not done a huge amount of Shakespeare yet, but what he has done, I've enjoyed. His Macbeth was wonderful. I didn't enjoy all the way the film was cut and some of the changes they made and bits they left out, but despite that, his performance was stellar. And like Tom Hiddleston, he's a really emotive actor, and you get a lot from just a few lines with him. The emotion really comes over, and like Tom, it's the current more naturalistic style of Shakespeare, where you don't sort of ponder the words of the immortal bard, but you just speak them as if it was any text in any screenplay, which I really enjoy. Number 6, David Tennant. I enjoy David in Shakespeare. He brings a slightly quirky interpretation to them sometimes. I mean, his Benedict in Much Ado About Nothing was just spot on. Absolutely brilliant, had me in stitches. I also enjoyed his Hamlet. And I enjoyed his Richard II, although Mark Rylance will always be the optimum Richard II for me. I did think David Tennant also gave a really nuanced performance in the role as well. Number 7, John Gielgud. So we're going back to the Laurence Olivier era. Gielgud's my second favourite from that period. Not quite as too badly declamatory as a few of them got in that time, and you know, again, well worth seeing some of his performances that are recorded from that period. Number 8, Ben Whishaw. Ben Whishaw has done some really great Shakespeare. I loved his Ariel in Twelfth Night, and of course he also has done a Richard II as part of the Hollow Crown, which was what led me to discover Tom Hiddleston. I would say I probably like his Richard II about on par with David Tennant. They approached it in different ways. None of them quite hit the Mark Rylance spot for me, but he does give a really, again, a very gentle performance, a very nuanced performance. Number 9, Liam Brennan. Now, unless you're a Globe theatre goer, you perhaps won't know Liam, but he did a few productions around the time Mark Rylance was acting and artistically directing the theatre. He did Twelfth Night with Mark Rylance, which was brilliant. He played Orsino. And the one I particularly remember him for, though, is his Edward II, Marlowe's Edward II. I absolutely adored his performance in that play. It was perfect, it was emotional, and it was a play that I hadn't read. I came to for the first time watching it, and I fell in love with it straight away, and that's partly because of Liam Brennan's awesome performance. And finally, the spot number 10. As usual, when I hit number 10 spot, I know this happens a lot, I'm sorry, I struggled to pick between two, so I decided to mention them both. Ray Fiennes and Ian McKellen. Now, either one of these could have taken the top 10 spot for me. They've both done some really brilliant Shakespeare performances. Ian McKellen brings a certain gravitas to the performance, I think, whereas Ray Fiennes brings this intensity. I saw his cinema screened Richard III, which, although there were things I wasn't keen on about it, his performance I thought was really good. But Ian McKellen's also done a really interesting Richard III on film. So they're both worth seeing, actually, if you get the opportunity. It'd be much harder to find the Ray Fiennes since that was only shown in cinemas and isn't released on DVD, but if you ever have the opportunity to compare them, I would suggest doing so. So that brings us to the end of my top 10. What about you guys? Who do you like to see in Shakespeare, whether it's on stage or on film? Pop me your thoughts in the comments, and I will be back next time with another top 10. Bye for now.